Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about saving money from your income, and I'll be sharing my own experiences and strategies for how I'm able to save roughly 70% of my income at age 24. Maybe you take extra napkins and ketchup packets from McDonald's. Not that I do that, but there's a lot of different strategies out there to save money, so we're going to talk about them in today's video. Alright, so here's the format of the video. First, we're going to talk about why saving money is important in general, how to save money on some major categories of expenses, things like housing, travel/transportation, food, some other miscellaneous expenses as well. And then I'll share some final tips and beliefs I have about saving money. So let's begin. Why saving money is important. Now, whether we like it or not, money is a very powerful tool in society. Being financially literate and understanding your own personal finances is very important in order to get to your financial goals. Maybe you need to save money for a down payment for a house you want to buy, or maybe you're saving money for a wedding or something. You're not going to get there by being careless with your money. So I encourage you to track your spending. Maybe use an app like Mint. That's what I personally use. If you're not comfortable giving out, personal information to an application like that, you can manually track it yourself with an Excel spreadsheet. I have friends that do that as well. But the point is, you got to know where your money's going and keep track of your finances. Now, naturally, I think that the average person can be a bit impulsive with spending. I know I certainly am. If I see something on Amazon that I really like, a lot of the times I find myself not really caring about the price too much and just kind of buying it. Maybe you're out at night and you're buying drinks with friends. I think it's very easy to spend without realizing how much of an impact you're making on your finances and your bank account. So first things first, I think you should track your expenses for sure. You don't want to just spend carelessly, like I said, because that's how your finances, I think, can spiral out of control. And then you'll be really sad when your bank account hits $0 or even goes in the negative. Now, there's a number of strategies out there that already exist that talk about how much money is important to save. This is going to vary depending on your own situation, how many kids you have, where you live, stuff like that. One of the famous strategies is called the 50-30-20 rule, where you spend 50% on your needs, 30% on your wants, and 20% on savings. In my opinion, I think this is a bit generic. It's going to work for some people, but I don't think it's going to be applicable for everyone. We're going to talk about some of the major expenses, like I said today, and how to cut back from those. But ultimately, it's going to be up to you to figure out what works best for your situation. All right, let's talk about our first expense, housing. This is likely going to be the largest expense for the average person. I did some research, and according to some relatively recent Bureau of Labor statistics, the average American spends roughly $20,000 a year on housing. So that comes down to roughly $1,700 a month. That's a lot of money. So I think it makes a lot of sense to kind of tackle this area first. Some common ideas to save money in this category, maybe do something like house hacking. That's when you buy a property, you rent out the rooms, or you list some of them on Airbnb for some nights. If you own a multifamily home like a duplex or a triplex, I think it's also quite smart to rent out some of the other units. Essentially what you're doing is you're having other people chip in to pay for your mortgage, so you can really cut back on that expense and save money in that way. So that's what house hacking is. I personally don't house hack, but I want to do it one day, so I think it's a really good way to save money. Strategy number 2 is to get some roommates. Similar to house hacking, I think living with roommates is another strategy. If you're renting a place, in college I lived with 5 other roommates while I was at Drexel. I was spending roughly $600 a month for rent, including utilities. Now, is that the best price in Philadelphia? No. I know people that got rent for $400 a month, but I also know people that spent over $2,000 a month for like a luxurious studio. So definitely living with roommates can help cut down those expenses. During one of my internships, my roommates were my grandparents because I lived with them in the city for 6 months. So again, there's ways to get around spending a lot of money if you have roommates. Another thing you can do is live with your parents. So that's what I'm currently doing right now. I graduated in June of 2020, and I've been living at home for a year now. Okay, I get it. Is it the hottest thing ever? No, it's really not. Is it hard to date and be in relationships and have like a nice social life when you're at home? Yeah, it can be really hard sometimes. I think for me, it made a lot of sense this past year, given the whole quarantine situation. So I didn't really need to be too social, but living at home can definitely be a really effective way to save money. You can't argue with free rent. Now, I personally give my parents roughly $300 a month, just as a way of saying thank you for letting me live with them at 24 years old, so that I'm not a complete menace, but totally optional and gonna depend on your own situation, like I said. Now, I'll talk about this later too, but living at home, I think, is an art of balancing your mental health and money. But more on that topic later. All right, next up, let's talk about travel expenses. Probably the second most expensive component for people. Buying a car, paying for parking, gas, auto insurance, maintenance, repairs, things like tire replacements, oil changes. Owning a vehicle and transportation in general can be very expensive. So let's go over some strategies to save money in this category. Number 1, buy a used vehicle. I know it's nice to buy a new car, it's fancy, it's more reliable, but the depreciation is actually horrific. I think I read somewhere that the moment it leaves the parking lot, it loses like 10% of its value, which is kind of crazy. I think after 5 years, most cars lose like half their value, which is kind of insane. Now I currently own a 2000 Honda Civic that I got for about $2,000 from a neighbor. 140,000 miles on it. No real issues so far, fingers crossed, but definitely saving a lot of money there. Now I do want to mention that right now in 2021, I think the current market for used cars is a bit high right now, so it might not be the best time to buy a used car, but definitely do your research and compare it to the MSRP of a new car. I also want to emphasize to be really careful when you're buying a used car. My very first used car actually was a 2009 Toyota Camry, which ended up being a lemon, unfortunately, because I broke down on the highway after driving it for a month. So yeah, just be very careful, do your own research, maybe get a mechanic to check it out, a third-party mechanic to inspect the car before you buy it, or maybe buy a certified used car. Those tend to be a little bit more reliable than other used vehicles. All right, strategy number 2 is carpooling. A lot of my friends in college did this to get to their internships, but if you're younger and you don't have your license, or maybe you don't own a car yet, which is completely fine, definitely look into carpooling. Going with your friends or other coworkers to whatever your destination is. You can save money on gas, and definitely an effective way to save money in general. All right, next up is public transportation. Now, I personally used public transportation for my first internship in college, and boy, oh boy, was it an experience, because I didn't have my license or a car at the time. So I took 2 buses to get to work every day, totaling 2 hours only one way. So every day I was essentially in a bus for 4 hours. Now, do you have to do something crazy like that? No, but I think it'd be a good idea to look into it to see if there's public transportation options to get to where you need to go. That could be the bus, the train, local or public shuttles, whatever. A lot of the times I think it's actually cheaper, and it's better for the environment too, which is a plus. All right, category number 3 is food. In college, I literally bought food every day at food trucks, Chipotle, halal. I was spending roughly $20 a day, $600 a month, roughly $7,000 a year. You don't really notice until you look at your finances and your budgeting, because it's food, and I think it's easy to forget because we need it to survive. But food can definitely be very expensive. Now, my strategy for this is just to learn how to cook. I've been saving the money this past year by cooking and meal prepping. I'm a pretty simple person, so I've just been really cooking like chicken breasts, vegetables, and rice almost every other day for lunch. You can mix up the spices, the style, the sauces, whatever, to make it more interesting. But my cost right now literally comes down to like $2 to $3 a meal. I also feel a lot healthier because of this diet, so that's a plus too. I'm lucky to have also my beautiful mother to cook dinner for me and my family every night, so that's also very nice. I'm grateful to have her in my life as well. But definitely try to learn how to cook, because it can definitely save you a lot of money. Try to minimize, takeout and going out. Nothing wrong with eating out. I think it's important to celebrate friends' birthdays, have fun. But if you're eating out every other day and spending like thousands of dollars on your food every month, it might be worthwhile checking out your food expenses and potentially cutting down there. All right, let's talk about miscellaneous expenses. So those 3 were obviously some of the more bigger expenses of an average person. There's obviously a lot of other expenses to consider as well. Things like insurance plans, cell phone plans, subscription-based plans, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify Premium, things like that. You can try to optimize these as best as you can. Now, I personally don't really use Netflix or Hulu or things like that. If I do, I usually just borrow a friend's or a family member. I don't usually watch that many shows. I don't even have Spotify Premium, which is a bit embarrassing to admit. But again, everyone's a bit different, and I think it's fine to have some of these expenses. I encourage you to do your own research to find some better deals online, or to cut back if you're not really using them. Before we continue, if you're enjoying the video so far, please consider liking and subscribing to the YouTube channel. It helps me a ton out and encourages me to keep on going and really makes my day, so I would really greatly appreciate it. But yeah, thanks for watching, and let's continue. All right, here are 2 tips I have in regards to money. All right, number 1 is balance of mental health and money. Now, I want to make it clear that I don't want anyone sacrificing their mental health and happiness for money. I don't think that's a good or healthy thing to do at all. Obviously, saving money is important, but if you find yourself following any of these strategies that I mentioned and feeling very down from it or miserable, I don't think that's good. Overall, I think it's a balance. On one hand, you can prioritize your happiness and spend a crap ton of money on, a beautiful apartment, eating divine and heavenly food every night. I'm sure you'll be really happy, but your bank account's gonna be really sad at the end of the day. Now, on the other hand, you can do the complete opposite. You could save all your money, 99% of your money, you could save all of it and sacrifice all of your mental health and all of your happiness while doing so and hate your own life. I think it's a balance, and I think there exists a world where we can optimize our finances without hurting our own well-being. Back to my travel example, for my first internship, I spent 2 hours on a bus one way, so 4 hours every day. My sleep schedule was affected, my social life was affected. I saved a lot of money, but definitely wasn't very happy. It's nice to have no gas, no car expenses, no car insurance, no maintenance costs, but if you feel miserable by doing so, is it really worth it? Definitely something to consider. It's gonna vary depending on the situation, but like I said, it's up to you to decide that. Tip number 2 is don't be afraid to spend. Kind of going off of tip number 1, I wanna emphasize that it's okay to spend money. Of course, I want you to save money, but like I said, money is a tool, and at the end of the day, we're supposed to spend it, whether that's investing in yourself or buying things that make you happy, buying gifts for friends and family. I think that's completely fine to do. I personally made some big expenses recently. I bought like a $400 drone because I wanted to, and I also bought this $700 camera that I'm recording with right now. These things make me happy, and I consider them an investment in myself, so I think that's totally fine to do. I encourage you to budget this stuff, of course, to keep track of it. So yeah, definitely don't be afraid to spend money. All right, thanks for watching to the end. Again, if you learned anything or you enjoyed watching the video, please like the video and consider subscribing. I'm almost at 50 subs, which is kind of exciting, and it would mean a lot to me. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree with anything I said, or if you have any other ideas of saving money. I would love to know. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Peace.